Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a review of the Vizio Quantum Pro. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same TV, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's jump into the review. Firstly, you can either get this in a 65-inch or a 75-inch, and those are the only size variants. So if you do want a smaller or a larger TV, you're just gonna have to look at a different series or just a different TV overall. I would recommend the Hisense U7K and the TCL Q6 or Q7. There are also some other TVs, but those are probably the closest competition. Now, the first thing to note is that the panel type is an IPS-based panel with a quantum dot layer. Now, the quantum dot layer, all it does is increase that color gamut, so you get even more vibrant and deep colors, which I'm gonna just tell you right now are very good on this TV. Now, because this is an IPS-based panel, you're getting a benefit and a con. Now, the con is that you're not gonna get as inky deep blacks as you will get with a VA panel, which is what, well, the competition is, and most TVs are. But the benefit of an IPS panel here is that you're getting great viewing angles. So if you more regularly have friends that are kind of all watching the TV, if you watch a lot of sports, or you just watch your TV from an angle, an IPS panel will be far better than a VA panel, which does wash out if you go to the sides, whereas an IPS panel really does do a great job of maintaining those viewing angles. This may be a huge draw for some of you, but again, you do have to be okay with giving up those really deep black levels. Now, for the OS and remote, this is definitely a bigger thing than on most TVs because this is Vizio's own software, and it's not my favorite, and I don't think it's gonna be anyone's favorite, but I think for some people, it's a non-issue. Like for me personally, not an issue, but for some people it might be. It does feel dated, not incredibly bad, but compared to basically every other system out there, it does seem a little bit behind. It's not horrible by any means, and it does everything you want, and there's no huge deal breakers, except that some apps it doesn't have, but most of the ones like Netflix, obviously it has live TV and YouTube and all those. It's got everything I personally want, and it has Apple AirPlay, which I really do like and I use a lot. Now, as far as how it runs, it does have a little bit of lag. Most TVs in this price point will lag right after startup, and then they're very, very fluid. This one does have a little bit of lag. You're never gonna be waiting seconds for something to load, but just it'll skip a little bit when going through menus. It's got that kind of lag and it never really goes away. Definitely not a deal breaker, and still it's fairly smooth. It definitely shouldn't be a deal breaker for you, but it is something to note. Now again, other OS systems are probably going to give you more, but if all you need is your live TV, your HDMI ports, and your streaming apps, you're probably gonna be okay here. Now let's talk about the remote. I actually really like this remote. It doesn't feel super premium, but it's nice. The TV turns on and off very quickly, especially if you enable the quick turn on and off. Like the second you click it, it's off. Second you turn it on, it's pretty much coming on quick, and I really do like that because if I have a busy day and I just need to look at something really quick on the TV, click it on, watch it, click it off, quick. I like it. The other thing is the remote's really small, so a lot of times when I'm using the TV after dinner, I'll be like getting snacks from the kitchen and coming back, and I just keep that remote in my pocket because it's so small. So I actually like that. The buttons on the remote feel pretty good. Nice clicks for the arrow buttons, which are also very large. One of the biggest things for me though is that the remote has fantastic range. You can be behind multiple walls in other rooms and it's going to work. It's not one of those that you have to point directly at the TV. I hate it when TVs are like that. So this one, great range. All right, but now let's get deeper into the panel itself. Let's talk about brightness and HDR. Now, brightness and SDR is fantastic here, hitting over 600 nits in full screen brightness, with those highlights hitting just shy of 1000 nits. This is fantastic, especially when compared with the color gamut here, giving an extremely vibrant image. Also, for brighter rooms and areas with lots of windows or lights, this does a great job of keeping away reflections. Now, HDR performance here is good, hitting about 570 nits of full screen brightness and up to around 900 nits in the highlights. The local dimming on this TV is pretty much just plain bad. So overall, the HDR experience could be better, but the brightness itself is good. With that being said, let's talk about local dimming. Firstly, this only has a mere 40 zones on the 65-inch, which is just not enough. It's also fairly slow to respond to faster movements like when gaming, and the zones are just so large that it can be very noticeable, especially in movies. Also, you do get bloom and things like that. However, even with this being just kind of a bad local dimming, especially when compared to the competition, I still think it's worth keeping it on if that doesn't just bug the crap out of you. And the reason for this is it does a lot for the contrast ratio. Now, I will say because the zones are so big and the way that they've tuned the local dimming, if the whole image is dark, like I was watching Hacksaw Ridge the other day, and in one scene, all the soldiers were in the night up on the ridge, and the whole TV is just super dim because the local dimming algorithm is like, we need to dim the whole screen. So that's where it doesn't become amazing and slightly annoying. But like I said, this still does a lot for the contrast ratio because this is a IPS panel. Its native contrast ratio is only 1600 to 1, which is not very good at all. That means the black parts of the screen are gonna be kind of more of a bluish color rather than, well, black. So it's not very inky. Now with local dimming on, this brings it up to around 15,000 to 1. So it does a lot for the overall image, but again, it's going to be kind of noticeable, but I still think it's worth having it turned on than just turning it off. Now, this is something that a VA panel is gonna do far better than this IPS just because its native contrast ratio is gonna be significantly better even without something like local dimming on, but you're not gonna get those viewing angles, so there's a give and a take. Now let's talk about colors. Now, while this is not perfectly calibrated out of the box, it's not wildly off with the colors, really just like the white balance is pretty substantially off. Those warm, natural, and then the cool tones, they're all kind of off. Not too big of a deal. Unless you're really big with seeing color accuracy, which most people aren't, this is totally gonna be fine for you. And really the big thing here is the color gamut, how wide the color gamut is, and it's very good. This covers almost the entire DCI-P3 color gamut, which is very impressive. And this is really something you notice immediately. Colors are extremely vibrant. Playing games in HDR is so pretty. So if you're into vibrant colors, this is great. And you're gonna see those vibrant colors from a very wide viewing angle as well. Okay, now let's get into the gaming performance. If you're not into gaming, you can skip this section, but if you are, let's talk about it. Firstly, this is fully compatible with the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S with 4K at 120 Hz, with HDR on, with variable refresh rate on, and this is possible because this TV has FreeSync Premium Pro, which allows you to have variable refresh rate on with HDR. This is also true with a PC if you want to hook up a PC to this TV. Now, the only weird thing here is that I was unable to do a 1440p at 120 Hz resolution. You can do 4K at 120 Hz and you can do 1080p at 120 Hz, but you can only do 1440p at 60 Hz, go figure. I don't know why. This is true on both PC as well as both the Xbox Series XS and the PS5. So not too big of a deal because I feel like you're either gonna do 1080p or 4K because of this. Let's talk about PC compatibility or just like its features because it's awesome. This advertises either 4K at 120 Hz or 1080p at a whopping 240 Hz. This is on a TV. So let's talk about that because it's not a native 240 Hz panel. Now to do this at 240 Hz, it uses resolution halving and doesn't fully display each of those 240 frames per second. Although at the same time, it does not skip any frames. However, the result is very impressive. Far better than I expected. Visually, it's a very buttery smooth, like a native 240 Hz panel, which is honestly something I was very dubious about. But a huge thing is when you're using a PC at that 240 Hz, this thing has insanely low input lag. No problem playing really fast games on PC like COD or Battlefield. You can legitimately use this as a PC monitor and it feels the same. It is that quick. It's very impressive. Now, the other cool thing when you're using PC is that this sub-pixel layout is not like a blue, green, red like a lot of TVs are. This is actually an RGB or red, green, blue, which means you're gonna have no compatibility issues with Windows. It's going to have no text clarity issues. So out of the box, using this as a monitor is fantastic. It's like it was designed for it, and they definitely did design this with gaming #1 and also PC gaming #2. This is a fantastic PC gaming TV. And overall, I think it's the best gaming TV for a PC at this price point. You get a ton for your money. Now, one last thing to mention with gaming is the ghosting is very, very low here. We do expect that coming from an IPS panel when compared to other VA panels. So really the gaming performance here is very good, especially with those bright colors. You're not only getting a beautiful gaming experience and a bright one, but you're getting a very fast TV, which is so impressive. All right, moving on to internal speakers. They are good here. They get louder than the Hisense U7K and the TCL Q7 and only rattle with a few of those deeper frequencies when they're much, much louder. However, these are best when used at a lower listening volume. When watching movies, I have this at 80 to 100% volume most of the time. And while that's loud, it could have gotten a little bit louder, but it definitely did lack bass. If you want to use this and have a great experience, get some $150 bookshelf speakers, and it's going to be so much better even for that little amount of money. Now the ports here are honestly just okay, and this might be a deal breaker for you. This has 4 HDMIs with 3 of them being 2.0 and only 1 of them being a 2.1, which is a little disappointing, as if you have a console and a PC hooked up at the same time, this wouldn't work for high refresh rate on both of them. However, HDMI 1 is eARC, which is not that 2.1 port, so that is great if you want to hook up like your sound system. You won't be using that 2.1 port, which would have absolutely sucked and could have probably been a deal breaker for most of you, but so at least they didn't mess that up. Then you have 1 USB, an optical audio out, a cable port, and then your Ethernet. Now, a couple weird things here: no 3.5mm audio out, none at all. That's a little weird to me. So definitely could use some work here, but this TV does give you a lot for your money. So if you're okay with the ports, it's a very good TV. But yeah, not having some ports, not 2 2.1s, yeah. But again, if you're only using one console, if you're only using a PC, this definitely won't be a problem at all for you. All right, now stand and build quality here is good. The feet are super high quality and give you 2 points of adjustments with height, which is actually really cool, as well as closer to the center or wider, which is great. So you can actually set the stand wider or closer in. That's very cool. If you do want to see that, you can check out my unboxing and first impressions of this TV, which will be at the end of this video, or you can just click on my channel. Now, the build quality of the TV itself feels sturdy, but not as premium looking as others in this price range. There's no like super expensive looking metal on the edges. I do believe the edges are metal, but it just looks like plastic. It doesn't look like anything special, which overall is fine. From the front, it's an attractive TV. No one's gonna question you or think you're poor having it, which you're not, because this is still a decently priced TV, but for what you get, very good. Now for Vesa compatibility for both the 65 and the 75 inch, it's the same, which is 400mm by 300mm. There you go. Now for the last and most important section of the video, price and value, and should you buy this? Well, firstly, the 65 inch comes in at $698, while the 75 inch comes in at $999. Now this puts this in direct competition with the TCL Q7 with the current pricing and the Hisense U7K, which both have much better black levels due to being a VA panel, but they don't have that 240 Hz capability. They don't have the same viewing angles or that RGB sub-pixel layout for better PC optimization. To me, this is a very good price for this TV, especially if you prioritize PC gaming, as those other 2 TVs are great for gaming on console, but obviously this one pulls with PC gaming. But at the end of the day, it's totally up to personal preference. If you do want those super deep inky blacks, this TV is just not going to give it to you. As well as all the other stuff that we talked about in the review, there's definitely pros and cons to all of these TVs, but as far as PC gaming, this one is absolutely the best. Again, if you want to check it out, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but this is Type C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.